Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Jade, and this is How to App on iOS. And today, the Rant is back, episode number 45, and we're going to be talking about mastering your mixing. Hello, welcome to the show. My name is Jade. This is How to App on iOS, and I hope you are all doing well. It is Monday morning here, and it's not as cold as what it has been over the last few days. Guess what? It's 8 degrees. Look up there. It's 8 degrees. It's like triple what it has been for the last few mornings. It's actually kind of warm. Feels good. Yeah. It's probably Sunday where the rest of you are. I hope you're having a pleasant Sunday afternoon, evening, whatever it is. Yes, indeed. And the Rant is back, and let me make a few announcements before we say hello and all this jazz. Next week's Rant is very important rant. Just want to put it out there. So we'll be discussing some changes, some things happening to this channel that may be a little bit uncomfortable at first, and you may be like, no, I don't like the color of this thing or the shape of it, but changes that are necessary to happen for this channel to continue to grow and evolve and be something more than what it is currently. So you won't want to miss next week's rant. I don't want to miss it either. Maybe I do want to miss it. Maybe I'm scared of what it's going to be about, but it's going to happen. And to change can be painful, but sometimes it's necessary. Okie doke, we got a stellar week of stuff coming up on the channel. Before we get into things, let's say hello to folks who have been kind enough to join me here today. Firstly, let's just remind you can become a Ward Warrior by clicking the members button down below. There's a little join button if you're on desktop, or there's a link to click, a little join link. It costs $1 a month. It does help the channel and all that kind of stuff. So if you feel so inclined, please do so. There are custom emojis to play around with in the chat. And if you send me a picture of yourself, I'll make an emoji of you if you're a member. Just all you got to do is reach out and do that thing, and I will do the thing, and all the things will be done. That's the way it works. Dark Leela has put a link there if you'd like to use that. Let's say hello to folks before I mention that today's featured artist is Valerie Butt, and we'll play her song at the end of today's show. Mark Bro is here. The Rise of Dark Leela, Thomas Christ. Look at the Thomas. He's got the day off posting links. How's that feel, Thomas? Good. SM Borthwick, hello to you. Good to see you. And Joe, Glenn, and Barry's not far behind normally. Am I right? Jerry Gomes, hello. What's happening? There's Barry. We love Barry and Joe. Joe and Barry, super sexy couple. Super sexy. Where did that come from? Christopher Rossi, hello to you. Good to see you. Super sexy. Super sexy. Perpetual Platypussy. Hello, my love. I hope you're doing very well. And before we get into... No, I'll do it halfway through. We'll have some fun with that halfway through. So what are we talking about today on the Rant? We are talking... I was going to do this. I'm losing track, man. We got a bumper week of stuff coming up. It is a huge compliment. So I clicked on the wrong comment. Hello, Heathen Granny as well. Good to see you. Right. So this week we have a bunch of things. Tomorrow we're kicking off with, we're revisiting an app that's had a major update, and we're taking a look at that tomorrow if I can find it. I'm looking for it right now. It is called No Input Mixer. This is, if you don't know what a no input mixer is, it's a technique where you take a mixer and you feed the audio out from a microphone back into itself, and you create feedback and you create noise and drones and stuff. I covered this one back in September last year, but it has had a massive update, and it's so much more useful, and it just really is worth going back and taking a look at. So we'll take a look at that tomorrow. The day after, finally, I know a lot of people have been hassling me about this app. We're taking a look at Evolver FX finally by 4 Pockets. Yes, I know. And you might want to grab onto your ankles for this one, because It's a little bit complex, but absolutely worth your time to understand how this works and maybe grab it for yourself. It is one of the most powerful apps around on iOS and very, very, it's an underdog. And it's something that a lot of people should pay attention to. And I have been too scared to do a show on it for a very long time, but I found my balls. Yikes. Mateusz, what's happening? Good to see you, Mateusz. You have it, but you didn't know what to do with it. So I think a lot of people are in that situation. I'm going to try and break it down as simple as possible for folks. Then we have this thing we're taking a look at. I know it'd be Metal will be excited about this, or any guitarist. GigFast Lite. This is a multi-channel parametric amp. Really nice for making metal sounds with. It's free to download with in-app purchase, but we'll get into that when we take a look at this. So that's happening. And then we're rounding out the week with our guest interview this week. You may have seen this guy floating around, very talented artist from Canada. It is Mike Haggarth, and he's going to come on and we're going to talk about his music, record label, being an air pilot, all this kind of stuff. And we're going to talk about his music here on the channel this week. Hello, Roadie's Jam Cave. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well, Mike. Also, to round out the week, one last app review we'll be taking a look at, and that is this little baby here called Gradient Synth, a little colourful synthesizer that is you use by picking colours and stuff. It's quite fun. And this, the developer of this, who is Corey, he's worked alongside Ryan from Sketch Audio and a whole bunch of Ryan's apps in the past, like SDS drums and stuff like that. So this is his first app by himself. Oh, is it his first by himself? I think it is by himself, yeah. So we'll be taking a look at this little beauty as well. Get some colour into your life. Hello, Audible Video. Good to see you. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. 22 of you here. It's very kind of you. All right. Need to ask you all. So has anybody been sitting there wondering, let's just have some fun before we get into today's. Have you ever been sitting there and you feel lost and you don't know what your next move should be, and you think, you know what, you know what, should I get into Goblin Cock? Well, you know what, here it is. So if you've ever been wondering about if you should get into Goblin Cock or not, well, Goblin Cock has 4 albums available, and so Goblin Cock is for everybody, and there's 4 albums they have. You can see them here. You can get them on Apple Music, and it's for anybody who's ever sat there and thought, I'd really like to try Goblin Cock. Well, Goblin Cock is the band. It's available in any of your streaming services. I think they're available on Bandcamp as well. So for those of you who've always considered, should I be into Goblin Cock? Well, Goblin Cock is available. So there we go. Yeah, see, look, and there's already fans. Granny Heathen says she loves Goblin Cock, and a lot of people like Goblin Cock. Mark Bro says, I just don't want Goblin Cock. I want Goblin Cock to get into me. Goblin Cock, it's a thing. And while you're listening to Goblin Cock, you can always have a dick insider. All right, so we've got that stupid joke out of the way. You could say it's an experimental thing. Hello, Falcro. You've come at such a debaucherous time. The first pick again. Okay. Barry wants to see. Looks like Barry's really into Goblin Cock. Look at that. Barry's requested seeing the first picture again. Yes, there he is. Goblin Cock. A bit of a legend, Goblin Cock. And these are the 4 albums that are available. If you've ever been thinking this is, the time for me to get into Goblin Cock, well, I think you should get into it. Anyway, enough of this nonsense, because things are going to be changing around this channel. We're here to talk about mastering. And what is it? What is this thing mastering I speak of? What is it? Do I need to worry about it? Am I here to lecture you about mastering? Absolutely not. I'm not. This is not a how to master show. This is a bit of a history lesson about mastering, and to dispel some myths and to help you understand if it's right for you, because not all people deem their music good enough to be mastered, and that's okay too. It is okay, right? So, but what exactly is it? What is its history, and why do people rely on? Why do people do it now? Because it began for a reason. There was a reason mastering started, and is it relevant these days with digital music? That's what we're going to try and uncover today. And look, Coldacre's got links to Goblin Cock. He got them from Mr. Johnson, didn't he? Of course he did. Right, let's talk. So I've got a few articles here that I'm going to read from, of course, because there are many, many fantastic people out there who have created articles that we can learn from, and I can give a summary of, instead of you getting the half-assed, half-baked story of mastering from me. I've got Goblin Cock on the brain, haven't I? Oh, dear. Good old Mr. Johnson, exactly. We love Mr. Johnson. Is Hugh here? Did I not say hi to Hugh? Hello, Hugh. Much love to you, Hugh. I prefer my dick. My dick band, all right. Oh, God. If you're new to the channel, I apologise. It gets strange here. Right, what is mastering? Let's give you a brief history of mastering. So before mastering, there was no mastering, obviously, right? Because why would you need mastering when music was actually recorded a different way, right? Music was captured through an acoustic horn. Remember the old dog listening to the music through the horn? We didn't need mastering then, did we? Right? The earliest days of recording, the separate disciplines of engineering, mixing and mastering were not yet required. The sound was captured through an acoustic horn which drove a stylus connected to a diaphragm. This contraption cut the recording directly to wax disc, which was then used to create stampers, which is how vinyl is created. Hey, GK Mac, hope you're doing well. I love seeing you be a bit more loosey-goosey with your tongue lately. I did laugh when I saw your Facebook post. I'm going for it, motherfucker. Let me do more poo jokes. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So these stampers were used to press shellac records. So back in the day, music was pressed, on vinyl. It's always been on vinyl, but it's been they used to come through a little horn, a little phonograph, you know what I'm saying? So mastering and this kind of stuff wasn't needed. We didn't have huge studios to record this stuff, so mastering was not really a thing. Yes, but hello, PAL. Hope you're doing well, Paul. I have to apologise. I still have the remnants of a cold, so I may be coughing away. Yes? The adoption of vinyl. So in the late 40s, vinyl really became a thing. A series of innovations in recording technology necessitated the creation of new roles in the production of records. In 1948, vinyl records became available, while Ampex started producing their new Model 200 tape recorder. Now, if you've ever been, old like me and had to be in a recording studio, you would have seen an Ampex reels, and you paid all your money and walked out with these reels and go, where am I going to use these again? Just give me the fucking recording. But this is how things used to be done. Youngins out there, you youngsters who don't even know what a dial telephone is. And so what was needed back then was a dedicated transfer engineer. And a dedicated transfer engineer would transfer the recordings from tape to a vinyl master, right? And this is where mastering began. It wasn't always called mastering. What was it called? Transfer engineer. This was the correct term for it. Hello, Derek Smith. Nothing like mastering and Goblin Cock at 8 a.m. Tell me about it, man. I get up every day to listen to Goblin Cock. Oh, good God. Right. Magnetic tape was used for recording and had a more comprehensive dynamic range and different frequency response to vinyl. So keep this in mind, yeah? Tape has a very wide range, dynamic range. So when you're thinking about your music these days, you're looking at your waveform and you see those dynamic peaks and troughs in your music. It's your dynamic range, when you add compression to it, it squashes it down, brings it more to an even level, squashes it all down, yeah? Well, vinyl doesn't have the same dynamic range as tape. So mastering, to get the sound from tape over to the pressing of vinyl, there had to be things done to, there had to be processes put in place to be able to do this. These are called things like, you maybe know them as, maybe like an EQ curve, right? Because vinyl is, think of it like a racetrack, yeah? We've all, some of us may have never held vinyl in their life, never seen it before, yeah? But vinyl is, it's a flat, black, sometimes colored disc, but it has these like lines to it, these tracks, and a needle has to go on it and run around these tracks to create the sound. Frequencies, these frequencies are etched into this vinyl, right? So the needle can't handle certain frequencies, especially low tones. And this is where you would be needing what were they called? Transfer engineer, a mastering engineer, to be able to use this EQ curve to change the music, to change the EQ of the music from the tape, reduce frequencies in some parts, raise frequencies in other parts to get the best sounding music from tape onto vinyl to give you the best possible listening experience. And even now, mastering is exactly the same. It's used now a completely different reason. It's more to enhance, but it is used to enhance. Hello, Russ. I hope you're doing good. You're sniveling. Yes. So when did this happen? So tape has a more comprehensive dynamic range, different frequency response to vinyl. That's what we covered there. In the early days, each record label or engineer applied their own equalization curve to optimize this transfer from tape to vinyl. And this is where you get engineers mastering engineers who have different, we all hear things completely different. We all have taste and we all like how something sounds, right? So you may, even now, somebody may master an album and you hear it and go, I don't like that. And then it gets remastered by someone else and it sounds different because we all have different kinds of hearing, different frequencies we hear. We're all unique. There is really, apart from the simple structure of mastering, but the main thing is, does it sound shit or does it sound good? These are the principles that are important, right? Don't overdo it. Don't overbake things, and make sure it just sounds good. Don't go too far. It's going to be a common theme through today's show. I'm sure Goblin Cock has good production. Hey, Tony, I saw someone else here. Tony Howe, did I see? Hey, Tony Howe, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Right, you're overbaked at the moment. Well, you need some good Goblin Cock, don't you? Everyone needs a little bit of that. So, still, in 1954, the Recording Industry Association. Now, tell me if this sounds familiar. You know the saying, things stay the same. I don't even know the saying. Things go around in cycles, pretty much. Flares keep coming back in. Disco keeps rearing its fucking ugly head. But styles and things, trends, they come back around, I don't know, every 20 years. But there's reasons why things happen. And listen to this. Tell me if this sounds familiar to today's standards. In 1954, the Recording Industry Association of America, the RIAA, we've heard about them recently, they're suing the shit out of AI companies, aren't they? They've come together. So every now and again, they do come together instead of just screwing us over. And they introduced an equalization curve. They came together and created a standard equalization curve. This curve was soon adopted as a global industry standard for vinyl records. So sounds a little bit like today with LUFS and Spotify and Apple, how they've all come together and gone, we think this is the standard level. And they did this back in 1954. And so, the music industry, the RIAA, has been around doing this for a long time, dictating what they think is right for our ears. This is nothing new. Everything old is, nothing new is old. Oh, I don't know. I'm not good at these sayings. So this standardizing the frequency response of playback devices in this way allowed for records to be cut with narrower grooves and therefore longer playback times. However, bass-heavy recordings could cause problems with these records. Now, this is something a lot of people don't realize these days, right? Because everything's gone from CD to streaming, and I've seen people do this. I've seen a lot of forums, mastering forums, where they've like, oh, I released an album and I was like, I'm going to put this out on vinyl. And they've just taken their fucking master from Spotify and sent it to some shitty record pressing company. And they've created 20 copies of their album on vinyl, and they've got it back, put it on the turntable, and the needle's just going, just jumping across. And they're like, ooh. No, it doesn't work like that. This is why mastering existed in the first place, because bass-heavy recordings would cause a lot of problems. The needle could pop out of the groove and damage the record itself because it's bouncing up and then landing back onto the record. So people who are cutting albums and not using mastering, then they were, in trouble. Therefore, engineers needed to add corrective EQ curves. This is what mastering is essentially. People think that mastering is make it louder, but it's not. It's never been about that. It is all based around frequencies and what sounds nice to you. There are so many apps out there and things that you can use where you can mute the level increase so you can hear what frequencies are being altered in your track, like Master Plan, a new app which we looked at on iOS a couple of weeks ago. And on desktop, the desktop version is much more elaborate. You can listen to that and hear what frequencies are being changed, because this is important. And especially, why am I talking about this now? Of course, I'm a big believer in mastering. Quick plug, you can join my Patreon. I'm going to do this a couple of times during the show. You can join my Patreon for $1 a month and I'll master your songs. Each weekend I go live on Saturday and people send in their songs and I can master your song for you for $1. I use a particular software that really takes away all the effort so I don't have to think about it because I like the software and it always comes back with really cool stuff. And we'll talk about software in the latter half of this show. Thank you very much, Thomas, for banging that one in there. Hello, Costa, as well. Boom. So, engineers need to create EQ curves to create more playable and better sounding records. That's always been the goal with mastering, to make it more betterer, as Falcro would say. This was the beginning of mastering as an art. And look, I'm far from a genius at mastering. I suck, really. But again, there are people out there who have mastered this craft and can hear certain things. But then at the same time too, never believe that because this person has a huge reputation in mastering or at anything, that you're going to go and use their services and it's going to be right for you, because all music is utterly different and we all hear things different. Remember, everything's subjective, There are so many instances of artists who have gone to engineers, mastering engineers, paid big bucks to go get their album mastered. It's come back and then they're like, what? This sucks. I don't like this. And they go somewhere else. We all hear things different, So where was I up to here? We're talking about bass. And so this was the beginning. Here we are. A role that had up to this point been purely technical has now become creative. There you go. That sums up exactly what I said there. This has vinyl's gone, but it is making a comeback. So it is important to understand the difference between mastering for vinyl to CD to streaming services, because now not only the technical aspects has really disappeared. Now it is more these days for streaming services. It is more about creative. It's more but what you like, what tickles your fancy, instead of having to make it technically work for vinyl. But again, vinyl has made a massive comeback and it's continuing to grow because tradition. We all love tradition. Everybody loves a good bit of tradition, don't we? So engineers started using tools such as compression and EQ to enhance masters that they've created. Yes. By the late 60s, late 1960s, stereo technology started to appear. So again, the record companies came together to talk about new standards because there are new creative opportunities with music for transfer engineers or mastering engineers. They could now adjust stereo width, dynamics within the stereo field, and a frequency balance, yeah? Now, Russ says something here. How about mastering for cassette? Well, again, mastering for cassette, there's far more range within tape than vinyl. So you remember we started this story off with recording to tape, and then a mastering engineer has to create an EQ curve to go to vinyl. There's far more dynamic range within tape compared to vinyl. So, and then your next step up is CD, where CD has, CD gave us the loudness wars, and we all love the loudness wars, don't we? Where everything just like blew your fucking ears off, didn't they? Oh, God, that's funny. Good to see Mr. Johnson. Is Brad here? Somebody tell Brad Mr. Johnson's here. Right. Okay. So in the 60s, the term transfer engineer got the axe, and we now have mastering engineers. That's where it all kind of began. Then we had so we're doing a big skip here because vinyl was a big thing. Yeah, vinyl was the thing. Cassette was the big thing. Now, I don't know, is there anybody out there who recorded demos when they were young? Went into a studio, recorded a demo, and you released it on cassette. Let's talk about that briefly because I did. I was 15, 16 and recording demos. And back in the day, I remember this, you would find a company and send your master into them, pay them money, and they'd just send back your cassettes. Your cassettes would get made, and the mastering gets done on the cassette duplication, on the creation of the cassettes and the artwork and stuff. And it was a bit tough because you didn't really get a chance to listen to that shit. And you would a lot of the time get your cassettes back and go, that sounds way different than when we sent that shit off. It's very different times, especially when you're a young band. You don't have the money to go in and sit there with an engineer, mastering engineer, and listen to what they're doing, And I remember a lot of demos I got back in early bands I was in and just went, dude, this sounds nothing like what fuck. And you just, suck it up. And it costs you $500 to $1,000. These were the ways. These were the ways. These were the ways back then. So we are at our halfway point, and you guys know what happens at our halfway point. If you indulge me, I need to run an ad because it helps with the channel and all that kind of stuff. Remember, if you'd like to support the channel, you can become a member, super chat, or anything like that, but we need to run the ad. You can avoid the ad by clicking skip or just becoming a YouTube Premium subscriber. The ad has been run. Awesome. I'll just reinstate what's happening this weekend. Get off Goblin Cock. Don't miss this. This is happening on Thursday, US UK time. We have the incredibly talented Mike Haggis coming on the show to talk about his music. He's super talented, and the dude flies aeroplanes, right? The guy's a sick pilot, and he's coming on the show to tell us all about his music. We'll be playing tracks from his new album and such, so hopefully you can come and join us for that. Hopefully those who have been served an ad are back, and we can get back into talking about mastering, which is one of my favourite things. I do love mastering. Give me a second. I'm still getting through the remnants of this cold. 1982, a big year, was the transition to CDs. CDs became huge. They became a thing. Now, CDs were around previously. There was technology that had been in the oven for ages, baking, but a pivotal moment in the music industry when compact discs came out. Unfortunately, they kind of didn't last too long, did they? Digital music formats offered vastly improved signal-to-noise ratio and huge amounts of dynamic range. So mastering evolved into something else completely different. So in the mastering stage, once we moved to compact disc, not only did you have the ability to go in and alter frequencies and compression and all of this stuff, you also had the ability during that stage to digitally tag songs and give what you see now. God, the words are escaping me. What you would see now with your music with ISRC codes, yeah. So if you release music digitally these days, see if I have a look here. So this is The Fight, which is released on DistroKid. You'll see over here, many of you would have seen these codes, ISRC codes. Now these were used much the same way they are now digitally for streaming services. But back then, during the mastering, because I remember I released my Dread Circus album in 2007, and I had to have all my ISRC codes. I had to go and buy them individually, right? Go and get those codes. And when I mastered the album, I impressioned that ISRC code into the master tracks, which could then be turned onto the CD. So there's so much more about CDs instead of just mastering that you could do now digitally with mastering. Let me get back over here. Where are we? Back over here. So yes, we moved to CDs. Mastering engineers could increase the loudness of tracks they were working on. So not only could they boost the frequencies and get a different EQ response, they could increase the loudness. So this led to a time, which is yuck, called the Loudness Wars. And Metallica really took advantage of the Loudness Wars, didn't they? Because they just cranked everything up to sausage. And it's interesting when you listen to Metallica's albums from that period of the Loudness Wars. It's very loud and very annoying. Very annoying. I know people probably have a short memory, but now we have like LUF standards from streaming services, and we'll cover the reason again why they have that. But I remember having a Metallica album, like And Justice for All, and putting that on my CD player and listening to it going, oh, this is so brutal. And then putting on another album afterwards, say like Counting Crows or something like that, and the volume was so different, and you're cranking up your stereo going, why? Why is it so different? Well, the Loudness Wars. And this was the idea that, we can make things really, really loud. Just because you can make stuff really, really loud doesn't mean you have to. But everybody did. And it became like this my dick's bigger than yours syndrome. And everybody had to go, but I'm louder than you. I'm louder than you. Look how big my big cock is. Oh, listen, check it out. If you don't believe me, I've been gobbling cock, So the Loudness Wars, more than anything, was just a big cock-off, really. It was a thing. So since the 1950s, engineers have competed to try and make their records louder than those competition, because louder is better, isn't it? Apparently. It was thought that radio listeners would think that a louder song sounded better. Therefore, if your song sounded louder than your competitors, the music would become more popular. Now, this is a theory that has been, not a theory, this has been something that has been used in advertising for the longest time. This is where it stemmed from. It didn't really come from the music industry. This came from the advertising industry, radio and then television. They would turn up advertisements much louder than the current program or serial you were listening to on the radio or music you were listening to. The advertising was always 1 or 2 decibels louder to try and get people to buy shit, because hasn't that what it's all been about from dot? You know, that's what it's all about. Buy more shit that you don't need. Hello, Pete Johns. Good to see you. Pete Johns is up next playing your music live. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Digital Drew, good to see you too. So, this is the history, man. So the loudness wars stems from advertising, yeah, and television. We all grew up sitting around the television, right? And you know this. You would watch your favorite show each week, and then the ads would come on, and they always seemed so much louder than everything else, didn't they? It's like, because advertisers pay for radio. You know, they pay for all the jobs there, television, advertising. That's just the way the world works. Now we're in a digital world where advertising, Google, you can't even search Google these days without getting the actual answer you want 3 pages away, because the top 3 pages are all just fucking ads. Right? Advertising makes the world go around. They want to make it louder, and that's what they did. And that's where mastering came into effect. And we'll get to LUFs and ads. And yeah, Google is the same thing. Instead of loudness, they just make them bigger than everything else and in your face. It's the same concept. Make it the largest thing, it gets your attention, makes you click on it. Television, you're watching your favorite show, goes to an ad, you're like, cool, I'll get up, make a cup of tea. And while you're making a cup of tea in the next room and you're not watching the television, guess what? The ads have been turned up 2 to 3 decibels so you can still fucking hear them. Because they know everybody pisses off for a toilet break or goes and makes a cup of tea or a biscuit or whatever it is that tickles your fancy. Loudness, important thing, yeah? So, let's talk about this. So, where was I? This competition reached a fever pitch in the 90s as digital technology allowed mastering engineers to push tracks louder and louder and louder and louder. And louder. And by the late 90s, records were an average 18 decibels louder than they were in 1980. So in 10 years' time, 18 decibels, just criminally loud. And this did not come without sacrificing certain aspects of the final product. Yes, because you're losing frequencies. You're losing quality. You're compressing shit so hard that you'll lose. You know what you're losing? It's almost like AI music these days. AI music has no fucking soul. And when you take out dynamics in certain styles of music, guess what? You're taking out the soul. You're taking out the flow. You're taking out the emotion, the up and down, and this is what the loudness wars did. Sure, it made your song louder and more obnoxious than the last song, but it took away that human context, in my opinion. I'm sure there's lots of people who agree with it. By compressing recordings this hard, dynamic range was lost and music can end up sounding lifeless. Exactly. Just utterly limp. This process also led to distortion and artifacts within mastering. Frequencies become mush, and it's just it becomes noise. And this is a reason why I'm glad that it's gone. Hi, Shelley. Good to see you. Mastering for streaming. Let's cover this, and then we'll talk about some ways you can use mastering, some products you can use for mastering, apps you can use, or just techniques and stuff, and we'll bring in this show. So mastering has changed definitely these days. Once again, it has continued to evolve. But before we talk about mastering for streaming, I want to tell you this. I think this is very important. I want to get across. You do not need to master. The most important thing about recording music and creating is your individual tracks. Get it right. Get your tracks right. Get that guitar part fucking right. Don't try and fix it in the mix. You'll hear this, so it sounds like it's a throwaway catchphrase. Don't fix it in the mix. Get your parts right. Learn your fucking parts. Get your vocals down. Learn your fucking parts. Don't sit there and read the fucking lyrics in front of you. Learn them, man. Learn the lyrics. Get them. It's your song. You're going to be singing it. Learn it. Understand it. Sing it with passion. You know what? These are the fundamentals before you get to stuff like mastering. And I'm not lecturing. I'm just saying things that a lot of us don't get to learn these days because we don't go to recording studios and pay engineers money and experience that whole. That's like boutique recording these days. You got the money to go into a studio and have an engineer and all this stuff. That's like, ooh, fancy. That's very fancy. It's a privilege to go in and do it. It costs a lot of money, but what you learn from it is amazing, and it's get it fucking right. I can't tell you how many times I sat in a recording studio and wanted to murder the engineer because I would record a vocal part, I would sing it, and he'd go, do it again. I go, what? Do it again. 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 I'm just like, dude, what was wrong with that? But I'm paying that motherfucker. And you know what? He was always right. Always right. Because when it comes down to mixing, you shouldn't even need to master. It's all about the mix. If you can get a mix to sound fucking mint, that's what it's all about. Mastering's just the little sugar stuff on top that just brings out those harmonics and frequencies and makes it just pop a little bit more. But the mix should be perfect. The most important thing is getting your parts down and getting your fucking mix good, yeah? Exactly. When everything is loud, there's no quiet, making loud practically meaningless. Yeah. Night and day. Black and white. Good and evil. Loudness and softness. These things need to coexist unless it's just a thump and dance track, right? That's why you'll see a lot of mastering. It's mastered very, very loud. 8, 6 luffs, 3 luffs. Crazy loud. Because there is no up and down. There's a drop. There's just a drop, man. And that drop doesn't need to have like super duper ups and ebbs and flows and ups and downs. So again, before we talk about this, it's important to get your mixes right. And then when you actually send a song off to be mastered, guess what? It's only going to be enhanced. Like that's all it is. Mastering just adds the bit of va-va-va-voom. It adds the va-moom, whatever you want to call it, to make it sound that just that little bit magical. And it doesn't need to. It's not about pumping up. You can push it and get it to its loudest point, but it's the most important thing is bringing out the frequencies that are in there and just making it just embellishes things a little bit more, just makes it a bit more shiny. That's what it is these days anyway. The exciting thing about streaming services these days is that they're actually helping to bring dynamic range back. People will argue about this, right? But this is the reason we have a standard. Again, remember the standard of the EQ curve for vinyl. These days we have a LUF standard, and digital services came together to decide 14 LUFs, perceived loudness, was the standard. So everything is on an even keel. Because there is nothing worse. Can you imagine? You're working out or you're just going for a walk, you're riding your bike, yeah, whatever. You've got headphones on, you're listening to a playlist of stuff that you've curated, bunch of songs play, it's this level, and then fucking boom, super loud song comes through your headphones, scaring the absolute shit out of you. This is even worse than when you're watching television and advertising and the ads are louder, right? The mastering now and keeping things around 14 LUFs, just below 14 LUFs or 13 point, whatever you want, you know. The streaming services will bring these to 14 LUFs to try and bring cohesion to what you're listening to, because so many people listen to essentially mixtapes. That's, you know, that's playlists, mixtapes, modern term for it. So that is what when you see LUFS and talking about LUFS, mastering can help bring that to the right level. Now, when you master stuff, you don't need to have it at 14 LUFS. In fact, you want it below 14 LUFS, 13, 12, whatever. But whenever you upload it to a streaming service, they will bring it to 14 LUFS. You don't want it over. You don't want it softer. So the way LUFS work, 14 LUFS is the standard. 15, 16, 17, that is a softer sound. The lower the LUFS, the louder the music. 2 LUFS, fucking loud. 14 LUFS, right? So a lot of people, and there's a lot of conjecture on what you should master your music to. It's all taste, because this is where we're at now. There is no necessity to have songs mastered for technical terms, for vinyl, to keep the needle from bouncing out and scratching your record. This is all about creativity now. You have every right to master your music to something like 6 LUFS, and it's super fucking loud. And if you upload that song to somewhere like Bandcamp, it's going to be that loud. But then if you upload the same song to Apple Music or to like a Spotify, they will lower it to 14 LUFS. So it will be that. The one thing you need to make sure you don't do is don't master your music above 14 LUFS or softer, yeah? 14.1, 14 point. Don't even aim for 14 exactly. You know why? Because there are streaming services out there that will not raise the volume. All streaming services, will lower the volume, but companies like Amazon and stuff, they will not. They will. So if your song is soft, they will not raise that anymore. So streaming services such as Spotify use loudness normalization system. They smooth out the levels on different songs on their platform. They want to make sure that their users hear tracks at a consistent level, even if they're listening to different artists and disparate genres. To explain this process, works from the listener's perspective. So this is all about the listeners. This is all about consumers and listening. Let's talk about ways, because we're running out of time. Now, I can talk more on this. We're going to do another fucking show on mastering. Of course we are, because as I said, this channel's changing over the next couple of weeks. There's going to be more time for shows like this and talking about these kind of things and producing stuff, because things are changing here on this channel. Do you know about streaming services making stuff softer or louder? Yeah, so every service will bring it down, yeah, but there's about 3 or 4 of them that will not bring it up. Some do. Spotify, Amazon will not bring it up. So there's that. What do you use for doing this mastering thing? I'm glad you asked. There's lots of tools you can use. Plenty of tools. For iOS, there's things like Lessons. Logic Pro on iOS has its own mastering thing now. You can just open up your project. AI has changed goddamn everything. You can open up a project. You can go to your final track here. And there is, if we hit the plus, there's this little mastering thing. You can hit the little plus here and you can master your tracks. AI mastering, it's all ready to go, yeah? There it is. AI mastering, you click on it. This is pretty incredible stuff, right? So there's no doubt we are living in the future with this kind of stuff, and you shouldn't be afraid to use this stuff. It's fantastic. If you don't understand how to do it, use this stuff. It's really, really good. It's getting better and better and better. There's so many services that offer it. Now it's in Logic. Most doors, are getting more of this software available, yeah? Which this is fantastic for iOS users. If you're not sure how to do it, this will walk you through it. It's super easy to use. So there's that. There are apps on iOS that can help you do this kind of stuff. There's stuff like Lessons, which is what I use. So this is a fairly expensive app. It's like over almost $200, this thing. And this is what I use on my channel. This is based off a real console, the Lessons Mastering Console, which has been used to produce so many big hits, and IK Multimedia created this with the people who make Lessons, and it just is amazing. It's very expensive, and this is why I offer Patrons to join my channel for $1 a month, and I'll master your song. And I use this most of the time because it's just got some really incredible stuff like HD engine and digital distribution mastering. So look at it. Enable this to create masters that are completely clear from distortion when played from digital distribution services. So it holds your hand and it does great. So we're talking about iOS at the moment. You got things like Grand Finale 2, Trinity, Master Plan. I've covered all these on the channel. All of them I've covered. If I do a quick search on YouTube here, so we go like Jade Starr mastering. Hopefully shit comes up. Yeah, there we go. So Trinity is another one of them. Grand Finale 2 is another one. Unfortunately, one of our favorites is gone. Final Touch is dead. Yeah, Final Touch is dead. But there are plenty of options. Plus, remember, there are other apps out there like Bark Filter. Fab Filter have an amazing suite of apps. You don't have to use like a specific mastering app. Like, remember, mastering is made up of certain components. It's made up of compression, limiting. It's made up of widening the stereo field, EQ. These are the main components of creating master. And companies like Fab Filter have, let's look at Fab Filter over here. And these are all, Fab Filter, very well-renowned company on desktop and iOS. You can't go wrong with Fab Filter apps. If I always say you should at least own one Fab Filter app because they just make great apps. They even have creative bundles here, pro bundles. You can see in here we've got Pro R2 reverbs, Pro QR for limit. We've got a limiter, compressor expander, equalizer, your compressor. You can use combinations of these apps as well, right? So you've got all that kind of stuff. You've got tone boosters. Tone boosters are another company. They're kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to cheapen them or anything like this, but they are very similar to Fab Filter. They're like an iOS version of. They're a little bit cheaper as well. But you can see here you've got your compressors and stuff, and they very much look like Fab Filter stuff. A little bit more affordable, but I'm telling you what, they do exactly the same fucking job, right? You got widening stuff like Spatializer. So Spatializer is an incredible app. Spatializer, there it is. Incredible widening app by Quantivox. Just so many people swear by it, and I can't not bring up this app. Russ would break my legs. Bark Filter. If you have not experienced Bark Filter, I've done a show on it. You really should. This is amazing for pre-mastering. They have a setting in here for pre-mastering that is just fucking nuts. You can just go in here, whack your track in, give it a quick pre-master with this setting. What's it called, Russ? I can't remember what it's called. My brain's melting. But a fantastic app. Yeah, go and check out the show I did on this. It's very much worth your time, Bark Filter. It's very, very cool. Plus, you have things like Ulean. So these are all available on, so this is Ulean. I have this as well here. So if we open this up, Ulean is 3 bands something. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. This will give you your LUFS readouts, and you can set presets in here for Spotify and YouTube. These are available on desktop as well. Yeah, Ulean. And things like Loudness Penalty is a website we've talked about here on this channel. You go over here to Loudness Penalty, and you can just dump your song in here, and it will give you an idea of how loud your song is, if it's going to be competitive with things like Apple Music and Spotify, and you get a better idea of your master or your mix or however you're going to upload it. Plus, remember, not only we have things like Ozone that are very expensive, becoming more AI-centric, and I can't leave without talking about, of course, many services like DistroKid, who you already may be releasing music through, have the ability to master music by clicking on this link, dumping your track in here, and using their Mixer technology to master your track. And all these things are great. But again, remember, we're at a stage now where mastering is about Does it sound good to you? It's creative. It's creativity. It's not specific. As long as it hits those, however loud you want it, remember it's going to be squashed down. And you have companies like Lander. Oops, hit the wrong one. Lander, yeah? So they also do this AI technology. You've got eMastered. All these companies, I'll just show you. All these companies have the ability to do this stuff as well if you're too scared to dip your toes in. Anyway, we are at the end. Hopefully this has been at least illuminating for you to get you thinking about mastering. Do you need to? You don't. Just get your mixes fucking good. Get your takes good, get your mixes good. And then anything you do mastering afterwards is just going to be like, oh, sparkly. And it's going to make it shine. Consider joining my Patreon if you'd like to watch me master people's music each weekend, because a lot of the time songs get sent in and I'll go, I'm not mastering this yet. There's a problem with your mix. Go back and go and fix it. Go and fix it and bring it back. That's what you're getting from me. You're not getting a super like personal engineer, and you have good people in the chat on the Patreon who will be honest about your mix as well and not shit in your pocket and say everything's fucking awesome. Okay? And I've got to master so many of your music, which I'm very thankful for, Jerry and Thomas and so many people's music. I'm very thankful for that. All right, today's featured artist, let's get out of here. Thank you for hanging out with me, and supporting the channel as always. Next week's rant is going to be a big one because we're talking about big changes to the channel coming up. Lots of good shows coming up. Mike Haggarth this weekend. I hope you got something from today to get your juices thinking about mastering and making better music, because that's what this channel's always been about, making better music, getting better, educating yourself, not staying in one place. I'm learning shit every day, and you should be till the day you die. This is Valerie Butt. She's amazing. And when she went to the UK recently, she did this amazing live performance in a studio, and it's just fantastic, and I really need to play this. This is a song called Apologies, and just you wait. This is beautiful. Pete Johns is up next with Your Music Live, and I will dump you over there straight after this show is over. Valerie Butt, Apologies. Do the things that make you happy. Mistakes make you better. We'll all rise together and just stay awake. Love ya.
This first one is called Apologies. You said you're sorry, but I'm still pretending that I'm much too busy to check on my messages. I can forgive you, but now I'm regretting. I told you some things that I shouldn't tell anyone. Should have known better and bit on my tongue till the urge has subsided. At least when I'm starting to calm down, you told me, just take a deep breath. You know how those words hit me right in the stomach. And now my ears ring like your right hook just landed. Your hands are still holding me firm on the shoulders. If I pull away, will you just hold on tighter? Or leave me alone with the demons that haunt me at nighttime? I wait for your voice to remind me there's something else out there beyond all the darkness. If I go to sleep, can I count on tomorrow? There's things I should do first in case I don't make it to daylight. There's always a first time for everything. I close my eyes and I wait for the phone to ring. You said you're sorry before I said hello. I said it's all my fault. We both know how I get. I'm really too sensitive. I get confused at the things that you say and the words that you choose. You said you don't love me and I just pretend to believe you, when it would be better to tell you